Welcome to the Developing and Using the ASR Training presentation. This training is for new OCAT users and OCAT trainers. By the end of this training, you should understand how to create an appraisal summary and recommendations, or ASR, and how to use an ASR to summarize a client's information and collaboratively plan their future activities. Before delving into the ASR, we want to set the context. While the specifics may vary by county, case managers conduct an OCAT appraisal after the client has gone through intake and eligibility and is determined eligible for CalWORKs. At this point, OCAT helps identify appropriate services and employment activities for the individual on the way to creating a welfare to work plan. This is an overview of the process after an OCAT interview is completed. After a case manager exits an interview, they are required to review any recommendations that have been generated by OCAT based on the answers the client gave during their interview. Upon review, the case manager will develop an action plan with their client and then generate the ASR so they can review the document together and sign it. Now that we have outlined where the ASR fits into the appraisal process, we can talk about what it is. The ASR is a summary of the client's strengths, goals, barriers, recommendations, and action items, along with demographic, household, and financial information. It supports a strengths-based case management approach by incorporating a better understanding of a client's strengths at all levels of service, from appraisal to service planning, case management, and discharge. The ASR is a static document. Case managers can't go back and change this document after creating it without creating a new interview. There are several options for what to do with the ASR printout. The optional supervisor's signature can be used depending on what the county process dictates. Some counties have scanned the signed pages of the PDF into their electronic client file management system. The unsigned ASR PDF can also be saved directly to the electronic client file management system. The ASR provides a foundation to guide the manager-client relationship that is strengths-based, focused on client needs and inputs, contains realistic goals and activities, and is dependent on client participation. The ASR can also help to measure success as the client progresses through the Welfare to Work program, coordinate internal and external resources needed to ensure successful client service collaboration and outcomes, help counties analyze and plan the referral system. The ASR documents all of the OCAT referral recommendations and becomes a valuable tool for counties to analyze the type of referrals that appear most needed in their area. It becomes a strong baseline of data to start those conversations about connecting clients to critical referrals or resources, both external and internal. Quickly share information on client status with interagency partners. If a county holds interagency meetings to discuss client progress, for example, as part of a wraparound case management approach, the ASR also becomes a useful document for sharing client progress, interests, strengths, and more. Please be aware that if sensitive information is added to the questionnaire responses, such as responses indicating the client is a victim of domestic abuse, the case manager may consider manually removing any pages of the appraisal summary and recommendations that include information about domestic abuse before giving the client a printed ASR packet to take home. Additionally, please be aware that the ASR does not replace the WTW2 form or the Welfare to Work Plan Activity Assignment. Now that we have discussed what the ASR is, we're going to talk for a minute about what it is not. The ASR is a summary document. It is not a comprehensive list of all client responses to the questions from the OCAT appraisal interview. The exception to that is the learning needs questions that a client responded yes to during the OCAT appraisal interview. Those are detailed in the last table of the ASR, called the Work, Education, and/or Barrier Removal table. The appropriate place to obtain a complete list of the client's responses to questions is the interview report. Users would go to the interview list and click on the printer icon in the column titled Questionnaire ID, which opens up a screen for users to select which appraisal interview and notes tabs they would like to print or save. Now that we understand what an ASR is and is not, we will learn how to generate one. When a case manager completes an interview, they will be directed to the client's interview list. You will notice on the screen that 3 interviews have been conducted on this client, and they are all stored in this individual file. Since recommendations have not been filled out for this client, they must be reviewed prior to generating an ASR. This is a screenshot of the recommendations view. Case managers will see the options listed on the left, and the recommendations for the specific client are listed on the right. Reading through these recommendations with a client will encourage them to develop long and short-term goals related to overcoming barriers and developing new skills. Depending on the listed recommendations, case managers are able to select the Add Action Plan button. Doing so will result in a pop-up box where a case manager may devise concrete, achievable steps for their client to take, such as meeting with a specific mental health provider on an agreed-upon date. The case manager may also indicate if a referral or evaluation has been made. Upon completion of these steps, the case manager is able to generate an ASR. The ASR pulls data automatically from the questionnaire and recommendations modules, so the more information a case manager captures and adds during the interview and recommendation process, the richer and more data-filled the ASR will be. After the case manager completes their interview and inputs any recommendations, they can either click the document icon under the column heading Appraisal Summary, or they can click on Appraisal on the bottom of the left menu bar in the interview list to generate their ASR. We're now going to take a deep dive into the ASR. It begins with a summary of client demographic information, followed by a summary of strengths and barriers, and then tables that provide detailed information about a client's barrier and recommendations for referral services related to the following: welfare to work exemptions, exception, and program waiver, family stabilization evaluation, and recommendations, work, education, and/or barrier removal. We're going to quickly click through the next few slides to get you all familiar with the format of the ASR. Here is an example of the strengths table within an ASR. As a reminder, the more information that is collected and entered in OCAT, the more detailed these tables will be. The strengths table is auto-populated based on client responses to the questionnaire. Let's take a closer look at the goals that the client articulated during the questionnaire. OCAT cites them in the ASR as a reminder of where the client wants to go. This slide shows just 2 rows from the longer strengths table that is shown in a client's ASR. Here is an example of the potential barriers table within an ASR. This is a summary table without the relevant action items or recommendations. It simply pulls a concise description of the barriers cited throughout the ASR. Here is an example of the welfare to work exemptions, exception, and program waiver table within an ASR. Note that the text in the condition and recommendation columns is auto-populated based on the client's responses to the questions in OCAT. However, the action and evaluation status reflect information the case manager added to the client's recommendation section of the OCAT interview. Here's an example of the family stabilization evaluation table within the ASR. Note that the text in the condition column is auto-populated based on the client's responses to the questions in OCAT. However, the action and evaluation status reflect information the case manager added to the client's recommendation section of the OCAT interview. Here is an example of the recommendations table within an ASR. Note that the learning needs score is displayed at the top of this table. In addition, the text in the recommendations column is auto-populated. However, the action plan and referral status reflect information from the recommendations section. How does OCAT generate these recommendations? In this example of a family stabilization evaluation table, Note that the text included in the condition column is auto-populated based on the client's responses. For example, the client may have a potential substance use issue as seen in the bottom row. What could trigger this? Well, it gets complicated. The tool has an algorithm that calculates whether text should show up, indicating a potential barrier that warrants further evaluation or a referral for services. For example, the potential substance use issue could result from a complex combination of responses. If the client indicated that the reason they are not working is that they did not pass a drug test, or they indicated that they have had emotional or psychological problems due to drinking or using drugs, that could trigger this recommendation in OCAT. Also, the text in the action column was added by a case manager, not auto-populated by the tool. In this case, the client may have requested going back to AA as the appropriate next step in addressing his or her substance use issue. The OCAT Learning Center, which can be accessed at any time from the top navigation bar in OCAT, has a multitude of resources to help you navigate working in and training on the tool. To understand where each recommendation comes from, select OCAT Appraisal Summary and Recommendations from the menu at the left. To help the client gain value from the ASR, it is important to remind them of what they have already accomplished and how good it will feel to make progress towards the new short and longer-term goals they have set for themselves. Help them advocate for themselves to make these goals a reality. Case managers are also encouraged to highlight how the ASR captured clients' job and career interests, job history, and special skills. Case managers are encouraged to consider these interests when making any job referral or support service recommendations. Barriers and obstacles will surface. These are just diversions as the client continues to strive towards improving their situation. In addition to tips to help you navigate the ASR with your client, we have some technical tips that will help you as you're working through the tool as well. These are related to locking an interview. When an ASR is created, the corresponding interview is immediately locked. If a user edits the interview after creating an ASR, OCAT will create a new version of the interview. A new ASR will then need to be generated. If a user creates an interview and does not generate an ASR within 14 calendar days, then the interview locks and cannot be edited. If changes are made to the interview after 14 days, a new interview will automatically be created. Between 14 and 365 days, that new interview will be an editable copy of the previous interview. After 365 days, the new interview will only contain the required 6 pieces of information. As you can see, there is a visual cue to help you tell if an interview is locked. An image of a lock under the questionnaire ID column in the interview list. If the lock is open, the interview is open. If the lock is closed, the interview is closed. Before creating an ASR, please remember that they cannot be deleted. If you forget to add an action plan, for example, you will need to generate a new ASR as well. So take a moment to be sure you have completed the recommendations before generating an ASR. To help you put the advice we've presented into practice, we have created an individual exercise for you to work through with your colleagues. You and your partners should create interviews and take turns going through the recommendations, action plans, and ASR as you would with a client using role play. After completing the exercise, review these questions together to allow you to analyze the task and help you have a better feel for using OCAT with clients. Let us know how you did. Comment in the Coach's Corner about any challenges you faced or any breakthroughs you had while working on this exercise with your partner. The Coach's Corner is located in the OCAT Learning Center in the Help and Support section. If you want more information, visit the OCAT Learning Center, which has the most up-to-date resources available to help you use OCAT. Please remember to contact the help desk, regardless if you are having questions about the mechanics of the tool, the best way to engage clients with the tool, or any other OCAT questions. Thank you.